Welcome to the 8th episode in a 78 video series on the cards of the tarot. If you've been here before and want to skip the intro, as usual, I will place the timestamp down below in the description box. Otherwise, as a reminder, I currently use two not safe for work decks. They are the Tarot of Sexual Magic, which I consider softcore, and Eros Tarot, which I definitely consider hardcore, as evidenced by the warning clearly on the box. Please take heed this warning. If you are uncomfortable by all permutations of graphic depictions of sexual acts, then this series, at least these two cards, are not for you. For this series, I will rarely discuss the reversal meanings of the tarot card, meaning the card jumps or is pulled out reversed or upside down during a shuffle. I currently do not read reversals for several reasons. However, also in the description box, I've included a couple of links to biddytarot.com, which provides an excellent source of why you should and shouldn't read reversals. Today's card is the Chariot, card number 7. Now, starting with the Radiant Rider-Waite Chariot, which for learning purpose for this series will be the standard imagery the other decks are compared to. This doesn't mean that the Rider-Waite-Smith decks are the gold standard of imagery. It just means that they are more like the artistic blueprint that the majority of the decks are based off of today. So, in this card, we see two sphinxes on the bottom, first and foremost, one black, one white, which makes me think of the towers. No, not those towers. These towers that we saw with the High Priestess that represented dark and light, balance, duality. We've got Charioteer Chad, who looks absolutely thrilled to be in the driver's seat. Of course, you could also say that he's calm, cool, and collected, but to me, he just looks bored. To me, this card is about control, mainly because sometimes when I dream about people, we are in cars together, and I take note of who's in the driver's seat, who is literally in control of our journey together. And let me tell you what, that is a bit of a wake-up call sometimes. But the provided booklet for the Radiant Rider-Waite deck says that this is a card about succor, which essentially is assistance and support in times of hardships and distress. It also is about war, triumph, and providence. Providence is also the protective nature of God or of nature as a spiritual power. I don't see triumph personally, but I do see someone who is in control of his immediate surroundings and of himself. I've also heard other readers say that this could be a sign of travel, and depending on the cards that precede or follow, one of stagnation, as the Chariot does not appear to be moving. Now, the Golden Art Nouveau tells us that the conquering hero is in a moment of rest between victories. Again, I don't see conquering. I mean, he's wearing a crown of laurel, which can mean triumph, but that I didn't see that just looking at it at first. His armor is too untested. It's too shiny. I see someone considering their next options, absolutely, and deciding on how they want to go about getting there. Now, I did do a quick search about the wings and the crest on the Chariot, and it appears that they stand for focus, direction, literally and figuratively, inspiration, and navigation. The sphinxes are said to stand for balance, like I mentioned before, opposing forces light and dark, along with the stars and moons representing intuition and instinct. This Chariot hero also gives me soft feminine vibes as well, but it could be his more delicate features and the head tilt. Now, the Gilded Tarot shows us the conquering hero out of her armor. Now, this speaks to me more about the pageantry of the journey, and I see sort of like a Six of Wands energy when I look at this card. To me, she is taking a moment to breathe and rest after whatever she has just been through. Instead of the moon, we have the sun, and if you want to get fancy about it, you could also say it's reminiscent of a compass rose. And looking back at the other two cards, we didn't see the reins of the Chariot, or at least I didn't make note of them. Here, the lack of reins is obviously apparent, and she appears distracted. She's currently not able to control where she is going. And the Easy Tarot Handbook tells us that this card is also about triumph, but only if you have the self-discipline to do what needs to be done and the focus to make it so. Essentially, you gotta work for it. When looking at this card, I also hear past performance is not indicative of future results. You can't rest on the laurels of your past victories and expect that to continue to propel you forward. Now, the Modern Witch Tarot gives us an edgy new take on a very traditional card. We see the Conqueror covered in tons of callbacks to the original, from the crown to the moons on her leather jacket and the wand in her hand, and the Sphinxes are back, and this is one determined witch. This card screams confidence to me. The time for planning is over. Now is the time for action. The longer I look at this card, the more ominous the phrase, "Please watch for motorcycles," begins to sound to me. She is nimble on her bike. She is confident in her place in life, and she stands her ground. She is balanced, and she will sneak up on your ass and overtake you before you even realize she was behind you. I think it's kind of funny that the modern day equivalent to the Chariot, for women at least, appears to be the motorcycle. And I say that because, so here we are with the Everyday Witch Tarot, and this little witch is at a crossroads in her very own motorcycle. Now this time she has a little sidecar and a feline companion instead of the Sphinxes, which to me, I hear this witch has some baggage and she is not sure which way to go. And I don't see any compass imagery, so there is a feel of a distinct lack of direction. The book says the Chariot is about forward momentum. It's about choosing your path and getting going down the road, but staying in control of that journey. You can see that the grip on her handlebars are firm. Instead of exhilaration, she just looks, as the book says, cautiously optimistic. Also, with the lack of stars and moon, I feel that this witch isn't using her intuition and instincts as much. I feel she's more analytical, like show me the peer-reviewed studies and past data on this route kind of person. In the Tarot of Sexual Magic, the Chariot has turned into the shaggin' wagon, and the Sphinxes have morphed into beasts of burden looking in opposite directions. The charioteer has a small cat-o'-nine tail in his hands, which takes the place of the wand and is called the scepter of his command. It also looks like a penis. His partner is completely assed out on the bed. So we look at this card, and I can see that they are paused. The, I guess, oxes are waiting for instruction on where to go, and they are not on the same page. So for once, the description in the book starts off with something I totally agree with. This card is about conquest. Okay, cool. I'm thinking enemies to friends to lovers, consensual BDSM, and aftercare. Dope, totally in. Link me to the story in AO3. Then this bitch of a book goes on to say, quote, "To conquer a rival, you must change tactics and perspective, faking a retreat, then staging a forceful surprise attack." End quote. I'm fucking sorry, what? The words faking retreat, forceful surprise attack are not words I want associated with a card depicting a man with a leather object used for impact play and a naked woman at his mercy. I don't care how delicate his little fucking finger is running down her back. That description is gross and I don't fucking like it. Speaking of safe, sane, and consensual, here is Eros Tarot to show us how it's really done. This is conquest. This is control, and this is probably the most unique way I've ever seen the Chariot depicted. Is the charioteer a power bottom? Is the Chariot a service top? Who knows? Who cares? They know exactly where they are going and how to get there. The charioteer is in control, but it is a system of checks and balances. Now, the provided leaflet does say this card is about control, and yeah, it totally is. Like, this is the first time we see the reins in this video. The charioteer is focused. He is intent. There is no slack in his rein, but he is not cruel or inexperienced. He doesn't have a heavy hand. They will work together to accomplish their goal. Nice. The Animal Tarot gives us the harpy eagle, and there is no representation of the chariot itself actually, but the eagle is standing on a compass rose bracketed by two crescent moons. The stars are back as well, so we have direction, intuition, and instinct, and with the eagle able to power itself, we have forward momentum. Again, the eagle is at rest, so typically a lack of forward movement at the moment, but that could change shortly in the future. And I get the feeling that the eagle is not resting for his sake, but for ours. Like, it would totally be more sporting if he let us get our breath back before he decimates our existence. Now, the book reiterates that we must act in order to succeed. Quote, "This is not a time for passivity." And it's the direct opposite of the Hierophant's message of now is not the time to think outside the box and do not take unnecessary risks. This card tells us that we must be proactive to overcome our personal obstacles. Moving on to the Jane Austen Tarot, not to be confused by the Tarot of Jane Austen, we have who I presume to be Willoughby and Marianne Dashwood from Sense and Sensibility, dashing madly through the countryside at unsafe speeds in his curricle. To me, this is about a loss of control or a neglectful nature. They are having a grand old time, but he is holding on to those reins very tight. And if something happens, his companion is going to get hurt. And the book tells us that this card is about assertion, that he is in control and knows where he is going. He may. However, she is not and does not. And in the book/movie, this is obvious. She thinks that they're going to end up together and he buggers off to marry an heiress after knocking up Alan Rickman's ward, child of a dead lover type person. I do see conquest, however, due to my knowledge of the story, because he does conquer her heart. I do see control as he is controlling in the narrative. And so in a love reading, this card will really depend on the question asked and the cards preceding and following it. The Lover's Path Tarot switched the Chariot for Desire, and I can kind of see that. The desire to succeed, the desire to move ahead. The three words associated with this card, per the provided packet, are fate, transition, and change. So let's put this into a context of what we know about the Chariot and how the three words can enhance that meaning. The Chariot is about moving forward and overcoming obstacles, right? So with this card being about transitions and phases, you could say that every obstacle you overcome is a phase in your life, about transitioning to the next level, learning, growing, and then moving on. This book says this card is a positive omen that you are on the correct path and that the transitions you make will appear as if fated. Okay, I like the description, and it talks about the couple on the card. Cliff Notes version. Basically, he pledged his life and loyalty to this one dude who raised him like a son, and then went and fell in love with the dude's fiancée, and she left him back, which I actually need to read more about Tristan and Isolde. I think that's how you say it, because to me that is not a positive connotation. Now, the booklet likes to give the reversed meanings to this card as well, and I feel this really aligns with what the card is actually saying. So the reversal meaning they give is impatience, trapped by desires that feel unquenchable, inconvenient timing, disregard, and insensitivity to the importance around yourself. Like, the meaning really resonated with me when I looked at that card. And in fact, that is the meaning I would most likely use when looking at this card. I'm also beginning to feel that when you change the names of the major arcana, it can have a big impact on the meaning of the card at its most fundamental level. To me, this card has major right person, wrong time kind of vibes. They sound sad to me. And is it because I'm single and I listen to sad songs to cry to? Maybe. And maybe someone who's currently in a positive and happy relationship will look at this card and see a couple who have conquered obstacles after obstacles after obstacles and are just so relieved to be together that it brings them near tears, because that's there too. Again, and I will say this many, many times throughout this series and possibly multiple times in videos alone, the question asked and the cards that precede and follow it will tell a much more full story. This is just what I see when I look at the card. Now, the Crow Tarot is back with the Crown of Laurels, meaning triumph and victory, and the Moon is back for intuition and instinct. The Crow is in motion, flying above the storm, which you see in below him, and he has risen above it all, and he's on the wing. He knows where he is going. And the words the booklet gives us align with that. Determination, willpower, drive, success. This crow worked hard to get where he is, and he's not quite at his destination yet, but he knows the way, and he will get there. Definite positive feelings with this card, and unlike the Harpy Eagle, the crow is not taking a moment to let you get your bearings. He has a plan, and he's already left you behind in the dust to accomplish it. Last but not least is the Urban Tarot's take on the Chariot, and it's probably one of the main reasons why I bought this deck. Again, this Chariot is about will and determination, and the backstory provided is a good one about the friend of the artist who posed for this card. This card is also about thinking outside of the box, being daring, taking the risks, again, in direct counterpart to the Hierophant. And it's about moving forward. There is definite movement to this card. And the book description says that this is a taxi too. And that makes me think of accepting help when you need it, because when you've got to be somewhere, you'll do what it takes to get there. So that's it. Another video come and gone. As always, I will leave you with 3 questions and let me know what you think in the comments. 1, what was your favorite depiction of the Chariot? 2, what is your interpretation of the Spirit Halloween deck Chariot? And 3, how does he compare to his counterparts? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.